Good morning and good afternoon, everyone out there. Let's see what comes today. Just give it some time, as always, for people to know that I've gone live. Pigtails today. Too many pop-ups. Way too many pop-ups. Trying some different things with live today, so we'll see how it goes. Do I have any drink in case my throat decides to... No? Alright, well, this is gonna be fun. We'll see. Hello. Hi. Thank you. And just, you're the first one here. I'm trying something different today, so let's see how this live works. How are you doing? How are things on your end? It's a bit cold and rainy here today, but the last few days were absolutely beautiful, and I was out camping. My braid is messy. Whatever. I'm not gonna worry about it. And I've got all the fur friends here today who will probably come visit. It's Sweden. Wow. I've been to Sweden once, a long time ago, when I was, it was not too long after the Project Hamlet interview, and I really liked it. I thought it was really beautiful. I found the people were a bit cold, but it means it just takes a little bit to like get them out of their shell, and then once they did, they were absolutely beautiful and warm. I love the nature. I remember I stayed with this lovely family in Sweden. I think it was in what was the name of this town? That's the main city again. Not Norway is the other country, not Sweden at all. We never met out in Sweden, did we? Stockholm, yes, thank you, that's the word I'm looking for, the Stockholm Syndrome, famous for. Yeah, so I stayed with this lovely family, and I think they were actually from Central America, and they took me in, and they were teaching me Spanish as well in Sweden, and bringing me around to do interviews and to meet with people who are doing eco communities and things like that. Oh yeah, you found me recently? Was it through the Ringing Cedar videos, or was it through something else? It's funny, I got a beautiful letter today. I woke up to someone saying that they're just feeling very discouraged with everything going on in the world and everything dark and depressing, and they prayed and they said, God, please lead me to someone who's uplifting and gives something to look forward to in the future, a beautiful future for us. And they said they were led to me reading The Ringing Cedars, which is just so cool. I love reading everybody's feedback and how it's touching their lives. It's just the best feeling. And I just operate off of my intuition. I just like, what do people need, right? You're out every weekend camping in the tent. You know what? I was camping too this weekend and last weekend, which is why I usually do lives on Saturday or Sunday at 11, but I didn't. And I'm doing it today because it's a holiday for us here in Canada. Truth and Reconciliation Day, because of the Native children that were found, which we all know what really happened to them, even though they're trying to always point the blame at us being awful people. We know that royalty, English royalty, played a part there as to their disappearance, but again, I gotta be careful with what I say. So yeah, I guess I can start talking about it. Oh, by the way, this is Appalachia. You guys never get to see her because she's super shy and elusive and always outside, but this is my beautiful girl. That's what she was just saying. She wants so badly to go inside, but it's raining. And I'm like, you're not gonna like it. But she's like a lynx. You see her ears, how they're kind of like longer and dark. She's got a cross eye too, and she's got dark blue eyes. And this is from the second litter of Mrs. Bell. And I wasn't even going to keep her. My landlady really wanted her. And then she, I know you want to go, you fart. My landlady wanted her, so I gave her to my landlady. And then my landlady got super allergic. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll just take her back. But yeah, she's very adventurous and a bit of a wild woman. So now you've met Everest and Appalachia. Well, Everest probably come. He's here as well. All the fur babies are in my room right now. Okay. I think that gives you an idea of this pretty girl. Yeah, I named them all after mountains. Well, except my orange guy and my gray female. Oh, absolutely respect to the Indigenous children. It's just upsetting when they're always trying to paint a different story about what happened and place the blame on us and more reason to take away our freedom and stuff like that when being blamed for their crimes. So anyway, going back to camping, that's why I haven't done a live on the weekends as they usually do on Saturday or Sunday. I was camping out in Chilliwack Lake. And there's a place called Chipmunk Caves, and it's yeah, we caved as well. It was with a bunch of freedom fighters, and it's quite secluded. It's not, I actually almost got lost, and there's no internet out there, which I love. Like, your phone's completely useless, how it should be. And I brought the dogs as well. What's this? Oh, you're on the right YouTube feed now, so don't worry about that, Tone Deaf. Yeah, we had a big campfire. We caught a bunch of fish as well. Delicious to have fish that hasn't been tampered with or nothing's been done to it. And so let me see some stories about. So the first night there were these cute little deer mice, and I thought it was just one, and I started to give them nachos, and then I realized there were many, and they were surrounding us, and they were like not afraid at all. They're crawling on our shoes and in my hair, and and I had cereal, so I don't have anything to drink right now, so my throat's a little dry. And so anyway, I just kept feeding them like offerings to the mouse emissary, basically, and they loved it, but I didn't realize that at the end of the night that they were so, like, I guess they basically I packed up and I went to my car. I was sleeping in my car, and my SUV, and while I was sleeping, I heard in the middle of the night tap, 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 tap. And then I was like, uh-oh, I carried them. They were hiding in my bag, and they came into my car, and it's 2 a.m. so I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do much about this. So I tried to ignore it, and then they crawl over my blanket, and I'm like, oh, they're still cute, and I guess they're gonna have to be here a bit longer because I don't really want to go through my car and take all the food out that's like everywhere. And I mean, there's my cooler, which was safe, of course, but then all these bags of foods, pistachios and pine nuts and things like this. And so, and my dogs, like, they didn't see the mice by the fire for a while until I showed it to them, and then they were like absolutely fascinated and enthralled and were watching them for hours. And then after a while they just got bored with it. They're like, yeah, whatever, there's mice around here. And so when I put them to bed in the SUV and we were trying to sleep, like, they're out cold. They couldn't care less about the mice or do anything about it. They didn't care. Only I was like, okay, how do I sleep with a mouse in my car? Maybe there's more, I don't know. And so I just, as if you're sleeping outside, I guess. Eventually I kind of like made a little tent out of my covers, That seemed to be okay eventually. I felt like, I'm not afraid of mice. I love mice. I thought they were so adorable. If you saw, I actually took pictures of them and little videos of them, because like they kept telling me, don't feed the mice, you'll be encouraging them. But then like, but they want to partake too, you know, mi casa su casa. We got to share what we have. And I don't know. But anyway, my mother is afraid of mice too, and she's like, oh, they carry disease and things like this. And I'm like, um, well, I believe that since, I mean, do you believe that, hey, Appling, do you believe that the, plagues and the flus were created like through pangolins and all these other animals? They're constantly trying to blame. They're constantly trying to make us at war with nature. That nature is the bad thing, not what they're the unnatural stuff they're putting out there and creating. So I said, if rats and mice really are so disease ridden, why is there a place in India that has a temple that worship rats, and they're welcome and they're fed and people live with them and they're just fine and they don't have any disease from them? So I don't know. I'm just really suspicious of all this pitting against animals, and it always makes me think about Anastasia and how she lives in harmony with animals, and how we really need to work on that again too. You know, they look after her. In turn, we should look after them. We are the caretakers, right? I'm just tired of like, also the fears just trying to make you into its bitch. I'm sorry. That's the words I have to use to describe that. Like, even with spiders, like I told my story to you guys several times about in Bali and being afraid of spiders, and working on that fear, and knowing that like you need to understand your fear, and then the fear goes away. Appling, I know you want to go outside. Um, yeah. Okay, so anyway, back to the camping trip. Then I said that there were caves. So there are three caves. The first one was like a big bear cave and was easy to go into, but there's these little crevices that you can crawl into as well. Like one of the people brought their kids, and they're tiny. They're like putting them in all the little crevices and having them explore. And the dogs came in after me. And then there was the second cave, and it was very steep to get to, and I tried to go up with the dogs, but they couldn't do it, and so I left them with a girl who wasn't going to go in the caves, and you have to climb up this rope to get to the cave, and it was really, really narrow. It's like being in an intestine of a cave. So, and it was about 15-20 minutes crawling in these really narrow areas. And I guess the best way to describe is like, do you ever see those Japanese game shows of human Tetris where people have to like fit in these kind of bizarre shapes, so they have to adjust their body in certain ways? It was just like that. It was dark, and you constantly have to watch for your head and maneuver your body in certain ways, like Twister. And I had so many layers on, and so I actually got stuck and I was freaking out. I had a little bit of a panic attack, I have to say. And if it weren't for, there's two people in front of me and two people behind me, and I feel like any other way it would have been, I don't know how I would have gotten out, because you can't go back. And there was the father and son were in front, and the son was like encouraging and cheering me on. He was a little star child. He was just absolutely beautiful, magical child, completely in love with that kid. And the father's trying to pull my hand up, like pull my whole body weight, and then people behind me are one's making like leverage for my foot, because you have to go over quite high up, and then you have to, this other person is adjusting my knee to a certain position. And yeah, it was really crazy, but like they all worked together to help me get unstuck. And then I had this little pocket where I was able to delayer as much as possible. And then I was able to get out, and it was like birth in the darkness, and then this bright light, and and then it was exhilarating. But the third cave was apparently where you have to lay on your belly the whole time and sort of like wriggle and slither through, and I was like, no, no, there's no way I'm gonna do that one. I'm done with caves. But I went swimming and we caught fish and great campfires. It rained one night, and then so we built a tarp and set the fire up underneath that, and there was fresh bear scat after coming out from one of the caves, but it most likely was a black bear, but it was fine. They left us alone. Yeah, I know. I took a while. That's why I'm saying I was camping all this time. That's why I wasn't here last weekend or even the previous weekend, and then the weekend that just passed, because I'm still in weekend mode because it's a long weekend for us because of the holiday today. And then I went paddleboarding with my friend out in North Van, Deep Cove. It's so beautiful out there. And that also was really nice. I never missed an opportunity to go paddleboarding with her. However, I had the dogs with me, and they're not a fan of paddleboarding, but they're just so unconditional. They're like, we just want to be with you no matter what you're doing, even if you're doing these things we really don't like. But I did my best so they don't fall in or anything like that. I'm like, okay, then I'm just not gonna stand up so you girls don't I know you don't like falling in the water and it's cold for them and everything, even though I had a wetsuit and I dressed them in that. But anyway, everyone loved them at camping. They had their little lights around their necks that looked like little party dogs, and little jackets and rain outfits and stuff like this. So yeah. It's so weird that your comment was censored when it's like exactly the thing that I said. Tone deaf, it shouldn't be. So I just wanted to camp as much as possible because I didn't camp at all this year. And it's something that I just really want to do more of. So when they were going out again last minute, I'm like, yeah, I'll go. And again, love that there's no Wi-Fi cell reception or anything like that out there. Yeah, just good people, good conscious people who know about the land. There's some people that came out that know how to find certain kind of mushrooms, so I'm going to go do a mushroom foraging course as well, and just learn more about mushrooms. And I just find it interesting how we know, how we've discovered throughout time, and this sort of innate intelligence of what you can eat and what you can't eat, and even thinking about Anastasia and how the animals would know which mushrooms to give her as well. And just that level of intuition where you don't have to have any kind of fear or concern about anything that you're touching could be an issue or poison or problematic in any way. It's just like, how do we get there? Right? There's like this bridge that we have to build to get there. And driving back, I heard this story on the radio that in Banff, 2 dead bodies were found. They were killed apparently by a grizzly bear, and it was apparently very aggressive, the bear. And then also again making me think about Anastasia, who lives with a grizzly bear, who keeps her warm in a cave and everything like that, and just the more and more sightings of bears, and how I think that they're getting maybe impatient to just and wanting to connect with us again, like they know their time is coming to where we are all friends again, basically. But then there's still a lot of people who have aggressive energy and fear towards them, and they can't help but mirror that self-fulfilling prophecy too. You know, you have to see them as family, not as mind you, that's very tricky because right now they're wild, and they're agitated, I guess, by all of our fear. And yeah, the world is just changing so much, but we're a part of that change. We're helping bridge this gap again of our connection with nature and peace, because there still are people who, aside from Anastasia, are able to approach wild animals, particularly kids, and not be harmed by them, able to pet them and be friends with them and so on. So even sharks. Like, I've shared that story several times about this guy that freed a great white shark that was stuck in a net, and then from then on the shark found him all the time on his boat and just followed him and like wanted to be petted and rolled over and stuff like that. Hey, Blossom. Blossom's like, I hear you're talking about connecting and bridging the gap with nature. I want to be a part of this conversation. But okay, you can hang out with, but no COVID test. She really likes to like go right to the brain. Okay. No. I'm just trying to read your comments as well. One second here. It's not our business to worry what other people think about us. Just be yourself. Well, yes, it's true, but it's interesting as well to see how many different versions of ourselves exist out there through other people, and how different people bring out different facets of you as well. And just how amazing it is when people do connect with someone that they have like a deep connection with. Let's say almost like a soulmate or something, but even like romantically where it works. I'm so interested on like all the factors that have to align in order for it to work. You know, so many things on the same page about and going in the same direction, and what people bring out of you, because some people can bring out the worst, I'm sure you know, and some people can bring out some really cool things. And yeah, I think about that a lot, and particularly when I'm observing relationships, I'm thinking about my future relationship whenever it's going to happen. And also just trying to be open to my biases. So if we have a type, my mom, for example, wasn't attracted to my dad at all when she met him, but she became attracted to him the more she got to know him. So I think that's also really important, because if we have a type and we're not willing to challenge that, or no, they have to be specifically have all these things, otherwise I'm not considering them. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. Because you could miss out on someone that you could have a great connection with, even though they don't have certain things that you think you want. So yeah, thank you. That's Blossom. Hello from Brazil. Hello from India. Thank you. Did something happen to me on September 23rd? Honestly, I'm really bad with dates, so I don't even know what day September 23rd was. I'd have to kind of look at my calendar and think back, and I may remember, I may not. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I'm always fascinated how other people think, how they come to the conclusions they come to, because, I mean, we talk about, you know, alien worlds and things like that, and nothing's more alien than being inside someone's head. No one knows what it's like to live in other people's minds, right? And all we know is our mind, and we're sentenced to live with ourselves 24/7. So, I mean, we might as well make our mind a kind home. Otherwise, like, it can be your best friend or your worst enemy. A lot of people end up doing themselves in because they just can't manage living with their mind. And the mind, I wonder sometimes, like, does it feel pain as it rewinds, like reliving certain experiences over and over again? And also our emotions too can really hold us hostage in a lot of ways, and it'd be like this exhausting roller coaster ride. Blossom, what do you have in your fur? Sorry, I just gotta check this. Make sure it's not a tick or anything. Okay, good, it's fine. It's nothing serious. So yeah, there's a lot of things with, I look at it like, it's not that the thoughts or the emotions are bad per se, it's our relationship to them. And particularly when we identify with them, and it ends up becoming, like I talked about also before, being objective in dreams, right? Being objective in life, being objective with our avatar and with ourselves. So yeah, these are things I think about a lot. Let's see here. There was some astrological alignment on the 23rd, superpowers. Okay, I remember now. I actually even did a video about it, but I'm a dork. Yeah, it was supposed to be the return of Eris in the sky, and it was visible. and it did create, again, bring a certain sort of a vibration of liberation on the planet. And I did talk about this goddess named Eris that was made out to be a bad guy because she threw a golden apple because she didn't agree to a forced wedding. And interesting that the newest COVID variant is from Canada and also called Eris, like I brought up before. And then also listening on the radio driving back, I heard that Taylor Swift, who I personally can't stand the darkness from this one, her tour is called Eris as well. I'm like, interesting how, like, Eris is the theme again, how they're telling us, right? So, yeah, some of you people are writing in Spanish and I can't read it, I'm sorry. What's your name? My name's Jessica. Hi, Doug. I'm a stubborn person who was dogmatic too, by getting better. Stubbornness is good as well, but I mean, we have to also be flexible and be willing again to understand our blind spots and know what we don't know as best we can. Be as honest with ourselves, even if it's really unpleasant. So just like, for example, unrequited affection, really liking someone and having a hard time admitting to yourself that they're just not that into you, for example, and then and then just like, okay, all right, that's what it is, and then just kind of let it go and move on. So it's hard to admit that because we don't want to believe it, right? We want to think that, oh yeah, no, they're this, they're that, that's what's going on. No, they're just not into you. And the sooner we can like admit that to ourselves, as painful as it is, we can then be really bitter and angry at them. Well, because of this, this, and that, or they're a jerk, or whatever we need to do to justify. But it's not the right way to go about it. It's just the fact that it's either there or it's not. And if it's not, then why are we going to beat our heads up against a brick wall about it, right? And I've had several experiences like this, both ends, and I'm sure you have too. And it's just like, it makes me feel like I've lived a lot in a short amount of time as well. And yeah, it's also just a great learning experience to learn more about ourselves and that this world and how there's still so much we can still deceive ourselves with. And the more we realize we can deceive ourselves, the more you can understand just how much we can be deceived by others and how we can fall for things so easy. Mr. E. Hello, respectfully. Do I remember correctly you were named after some Yasi? Yes, that's correct. My dad was told to name me after her when my mom was pregnant with me. And yes, she is one of my guides and people that I call people, star people that I work with. Jessica, there should be a translation for Spanish and other languages here on YouTube, I think. It would be nice, yeah, as like while I'm speaking, there's an automatic Spanish and other languages you can click on, but I don't know like if there is something like that or if it's like a paid feature or what. I mean, I used to just do videos on my own, but now I'm doing it live because it's fun to connect with you and talk with you and ask all your questions, and also because I'm super shy. But every time I'm about to do a video, I'm always like nervous. I'm like, what am I gonna say? I don't have anything to say, and then stuff comes out that I want to say. But then you guys also inspire stuff too. I talk about little stories about my personal life, and then suddenly things come about. And Jessica Mystic, my spiritual self, really came out a lot in this camping trip, particularly this last one. She was just and I'm not sure what the people thought about it because it's a lot, and I tend to, I think, maybe overwhelm and intimidate people, particularly men. But I can't help but not be me. Like I feel like it's always an unjust when I'm not myself, regardless of, again, what we were talking about, what people think. It's not that I care about what people think, but I don't know. It's a lot for me too. And I'm also aware of how much people can take, and I can be just a waterfall in a flow of information. And so it's cool that when I'm here, because you guys know me and you know the things that I'm gonna say, and it's not really out there for you. It's a necessity in a way that it's speaking to these deeper levels of yourself. And so that's really cool, and that's why I prefer now doing videos live as opposed to doing videos on my own. I might go back to doing that at some point when I have like really specific messages, and I do have ideas of things that I do want to talk about, things that have been sitting, like has come up this last few weeks, and I'll get there. I just tend to procrastinate a little bit at first. Let's see. Yeah, there might be some kind of translation technology. You can take a look at that, Robert. I is shy too, but you are a brave soul. Well, the message and the connection is always like becomes more important than any kind of fear. The fear automatically takes a back seat. And using the word again, how, you know, fear makes you into its bitch. I just refuse to have that happen. I just think about like if we're one day on our deathbed and we're all the things we could have done and said and did and we didn't because of fear. You know, it makes me feel like all the people that are dead well alive. There's so many living dead, unfortunately, and it's because of their fears. They just let it get to a point, or even where you get so hurt with love, your heart gets broken so badly that you're like, I'm never gonna love again. If I can't have them, no one can have them, right? This kind of crazy kind of thinking starts to come. And it's just the ultimate worst thing we can do is to just close our heart and not let ourselves be vulnerable and not let ourselves like love again. Like you can't cast spells on yourself like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe there's no one out there for you because it's been, you can say evidence, because it's been all this time has gone by and you haven't found the right person, it's so easy to say, oh, there's no one for you, but that's not true. It's not true. And I can admit that I also struggle with that too. And so it's a little bit of a challenge because we are conditioning ourselves and saying it over and over, or at a very young age, we planted these seeds. So now we have to overcome that, right? And it gets me emotional, not just because of myself, but because I see it happen to so many people. And then I'm like, but you're missing out. You'll never see, like, maybe the person you're sitting next to is that person for you, but you can't see that because you've told yourself there's no one for you. Therefore, they don't exist anymore, right? So it's just so sad. It breaks my heart that this, how we are, that we choose this, that we think this, that I've even fallen for this. Okay, so you're a man, but you know that what you are, what you like, an all or nothing attitude is for the kill. Again, like we can have a lot of what we want, but we also have to be open, because we can be surprised and we never know everything. And it's good that we don't. We think we know what we want, but there are things that the universe may know that we don't know that we want. Let's put it that way. So I've been looking at that a lot too. Sorry, my nose is always running and I don't have tissue and I don't really want to blow my nose in front of you guys, so I just like lightly tap it. And I don't know why I'm telling you guys that. Let's see. Coward is what one is called. I don't know, is coward, but it's just pain. We run from our pain and we hide from our pain, and there's nowhere to run from your past. There's nowhere to run from your pain. You can't outrun a ghost. And like I say when I do my dressages, that pain is a messenger that needs to be addressed to the right address. And so we need to, again, just like our fears, understand our fears, we need to understand our pain. And so that it doesn't control and rule us and make decisions for us, because again, that can possess us and we can get lost and identify in that and think that's what we are, and we're not. So I'd like to always kind of remind people, do you remember who you were, particularly when you're a kid, before all this pain happened to you, before you started to identify as one particular belief, ideology, label over another? because that's not who you are, right? You're playing roles. We're all actors playing roles, and we're lost to it. Coward, I think, is a harsh word, and coward, I think, is a word that if you called someone that, it wouldn't create empathy. It would make the person not be open or comfortable to sharing more about their pain. And I guess I've had a knack throughout my life where people would share things with me that they would never share with anyone, because I guess I make them feel safe. I don't insult them ever on their journey or their pain, because we all have our lot, right? We all have our things that we've went through, and it's not a pain competition or anything like that. Daughters of Lilith, you've been so lonely for some time, and it does feel like I've never met the one. I can definitely relate to that. I can say, though, that you may have met the one, but you may not know it, because just different timing in life. I met someone that I recently, again, on the camping trip, that I went on a date with. Apparently we were the first freedom fighters who went on dates with. And, but I was emotionally unavailable for him at the time. So he's like, you're very closed off and reserved, and clearly not myself. And then, he mentioned that in the last week's camping trip. So this camping trip, when I saw him again, I was like, I'm sorry, I was emotionally unavailable, you know, but now, this time, he was the one emotionally unavailable, so it was timing in this case. But, you know, another thing we need to keep in mind is that let's never mistake being alone for being free as well, because that's not necessarily the case too. You can be free together as well, but you have to be aware of other factors at play. Like I give a lot of advice about relationships as well, and I kind of feel hesitant to want to do that, because I feel like I should be in a relationship in order to be giving relationship advice. Otherwise, I don't know, I just really want to be able to walk my own talk. I don't want to be a hypocrite, and I just think it makes more sense. But I do know a lot about relationships from what I've observed. I can probably say I've never been in a real relationship. The relationships I've been in, we call them situationships. Someone said that to me, and I think, oh my gosh, that is so true. That's exactly what it is. Because whenever I would get into a relationship, I would refer to it as a vacation to being human, just because I was so young when I got like connected into this deep spiritual understanding. And as beautiful as it was also very sad for me, because, and why I was so angry at my dad, I think, is because I was never going to be normal. And that was something they brought up too during camping. Like, you never had a chance to have a normal life, to meet, you know, a guy, get married and have kids and all that kind of stuff. You had to like be this spiritual teacher and travel the world and have these very unique experiences that no one's had, you know, like so many people just can't relate or fathom what I've been through and experienced. And so it kind of puts me on this pedestal that upsets me, because I want to be seen as human, but I also want to like, by sharing the spiritual things that I have, because simultaneously I'm in love with humanity, I'm in love with their potential, and I can't like not say what I see in them. And I just will, until I'm out of breath, I'll constantly be encouraging and lifting people up and trying to remind them. But the more I say of what I know, the more it like, oh, she's way too advanced, she's beyond, she's not human, she's this, she's that. But we're all not human. Like, it's frustrating, because I'm constantly being, and that's, I think, what really happened with why I'm not the public figure I was before, why I don't have that audience. And that's okay. It's just, it's difficult to balance these two facets of yourself. Again, what the world thinks you should be, what you think you should have, what's normal, like what Anastasia talks about, versus where you're at in life. My goodness, there's a lot of comments here. I'm missing them. Fear is not cowardice is true. It can be just overwhelming. And that's because we don't understand it. We're kind of letting it get to us and create this sort of anxiety. And that's, again, where we need to detach and be a bit more objective towards our fears. Just like within nightmares, like I said, become aware that this is a nightmare and that they have no power over you, this monster that's chasing you. And then when you're lucid, they disappear, and then you realize, you know, because the worst thing you can do is wake up. Wake up, fight, or run, because every time you lose. But when you face it and look at it for what it is and realize that it's your mind making it worse, like, I don't like the movies Harry Potter, but my guides wanted me to watch it. Particularly the third one, The Prisoner of Azkaban. And I just really liked this concept of when they were told to imagine, the kids to imagine their worst fears. Like one kid was afraid of a spider, maybe it was Ron, and it was a massive spider that appeared in front of the room, and then there was this counteract spell called Ridiculous, and then suddenly the spider had 8 roller skates on and could barely walk, and then they just started laughing, and that laughter ended up, you know, dissipating the fear altogether. It really, there's a lot of profound wisdom and insight in that, that it could be very helpful when it comes to when we're in the throes of our fears. And then also to remember that fear stands for false evidence appearing real. You've been stuck in the same toxic loop in your relationships for years. Yeah, and so in this case, I would ask, like, to understand your patterns of why that's happening. So, like, from now, like, if I sense something that's toxic with a person, I don't even go there. I won't even give them the chance like I did before. I've learned from that, unless, you know, they can show otherwise. I also tend to trust right away until I've given reason to trust, where some people you really have to work and earn trust. But yeah, I've just always been this way. But still, it's tricky. It's tricky. You really got to know yourself and be able to be honest with yourself, to know that when you get involved with a person, we tend to want to see them through our ideals. And so you have your idea of yourself, they have their idea of you, you have your idea of them, they have their idea of you, and they have their idea of a relationship, you have your idea of a relationship. And so usually we're involved, and we get involved with ideas of a person versus the actual person. And this is how you can be together with someone for 50 years and wake up one day and be like, I didn't know my partner. What the heck happened here? It's because something happened where they finally got to see who their that partner really was, not their ideals. And so it's like a spell. Again, we brainwash ourselves. We do it to ourselves. Or there are people that are really good at lying, acting, and gaslighting as well. And learning about us and knowing exactly, you know, what we need, and they try to give it to us, and to the point they make you dependent, and then it's a trap. So, but I believe that, like, the more we are honest with ourselves, the more we go for people for the right reasons, because it's easy to go for people for not the best reasons, even with making children as well, that, like, as they think that might work with a relationship, but then it ends up being the thing that undoes the relationship. Most relationships tend to be fine on their own. It tends to end mainly when children are brought in, and that's because of the different ideas parents have about raising children. So yeah, it's complicated. I don't have all the answers. I'm experiencing and learning as well. I'm on my journey too. But these are things that I understand a lot about what we do. And also, if we're 90% we're made out of water, and monks are always telling you to calm, you know, your mind and your waters, and look at a reflection of yourself, you know, in the river when you do that. And if the water is disturbed, then the image of yourself in the world will be distorted. So if the water inside you is disturbed, then the image of yourself in the world and everybody else will be distorted. You'll never be able to see the truth, right? So there's a lot there. And just because you've been stuck in that toxic loop for such a long time doesn't mean you always will be, right? So just be careful with the way you're saying things in these words, because, again, it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that's actually, I know there's more comments here, but I'm going to go into some of the things that I wanted to talk about. I had these people message me who are like, I caught your lives and I like what you're saying, and this other person's saying very similar things to you. And I'm like, oh, okay. But then they're like, but cashless society and 15-minute cities and all these things are going to happen. They are true. And I'm like, a little annoyed, because I'm like, well, I don't know if you really grasp then what I'm saying exactly, because that might be your reality, but, and particularly if this person is a speaker, they have a responsibility about what they are telling the masses. But, you know, there is a reason why the cabal has most entertainment and information out there about dystopian future realities, like I've talked about before. And it's because of a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? That we manifested. There's a reason why they wrote the Bible in the way they did, or tampered with the Bible in the way they did, particularly Revelations, to manifest it and make people believe it. Particularly, oh, here's the evidence, so this is what's happening. And so, a lot of you guys know me through my Project Camelot interview, but I don't know how many of you know exactly how the Project Camelot interview came about. I was doing my videos and someone felt very inspired to bring me to Australia, and I went, and there was this Nexus conference, and it was just this big spiritual gathering, and I just started pouring out information of things that I just couldn't hold in. I just wanted to share. And I remember sitting and listening to some of the speeches as well, and I remember there was like an Anastasia booth there of the Ringing Cedars, and orgasmic childbirth someone was teaching courses on, and all these really neat things. And then some of the speeches were really beautiful. I think there was the Mitchell Hedge crystal skull, and then there was Project Camelot. And Project Camelot was sharing a recording of, I don't remember if it's Bill Deagle or not, really bad with names. He was sharing something that was very dark for the future, and the audience was quite psychic, and I was kind of freaking out inside. And I didn't know that people were, as I was sharing at this conference, that everyone was going up to, after I talked with them, they kept going to Carrie and Bill from Project Camelot and saying, you've got to interview this girl, you've got to interview this girl. So they didn't know who I was, they just kept hearing, there's this girl they've got to interview that's here. And while I'm listening to this message of darkness for the future, and I could see everybody visualizing it and manifesting it, I started to kind of freak out inside of me, and like, I felt like these like electric currents were running through my body, and this kind of nudging, like, go up to her and talk to her and tell her that, you know, what she's doing by sharing this message in this way with this kind of an audience. And I was shy, and I was like, no, who am I to kind of go up and share this? My bangs were driving me crazy, as always. And sure enough, I did. I went right up to her and on the stage, and I just sort of challenged her. And she kind of realized that, but who is this girl that's telling me what to do and what I should show to people and whatnot? And I think that other people started to say things like, you know, this is the girl we were telling you about, this is the girl. So then she kind of, afterwards we sat down and had a conversation, and I told her, you know, what I felt about her sharing that message and the responsibility she had. And I'm so young at the time, and they're older, and they're like, you know, like, Bill was a lot more gentler with me. Carrie was a bit offended and hurt with me, but they agreed that they should interview me, and that's basically how the interview came about. And I'm just so adamant about watching we are being used to create a certain kind of a future. And that's what I love about Anastasia, is because she really puts it into perspective that we don't have to have this kind of future. Like, we can have a whole different visual of, if we can visualize it and see it stronger than this other darker counterfeit timeline that keeps coming across us. But when I come across people who are spiritual teachers who are sharing quote unquote truth or prophecy, I get super upset if they're not being responsible about what they're sharing and realizing the ramifications of it. So it's such a huge thing with me. So I just almost refuse to continue to talk to these people because I shared how I felt about, you know, this, and they, I don't know, they kind of ignored it and continued on repeating the same thing over and over. And so just like with relationships, so we can do self-fulfilling prophecies about us growing old and miserable and sad by ourselves, right, alone. It's not right. That's not fair to do that to ourselves. And we have to just constantly remind ourselves, just like whenever we see, oh, 15 minutes, 17 minutes, yeah, okay, it's looming, but it doesn't have to, like, it's a warning and something we can do to prevent. And that's what we're here to do, is prevent this. So there's a fine line in being a truth teller and sharing the agenda, because they want people to know about their Agenda 30, because they want people to visualize it and look at all the evidence and think that we're screwed, that we have no choice, but we're going to be forced into this. Not realizing that we do have an option to fight by different visuals of the future and change it, prevent it from happening. That's what we're here to do. And it's just, I don't know, it's so clear to me. Why is it not clear to others? But anyway, that's been like my lot and theme of my life, it seems. So how to be intuitive, how to be psychic, it's just freaking patterns. You just see patterns and you know them so well that is like, yeah. What else do I want to say on that? There was more. I'll look at your comments in the meantime. I'll say that I knew somebody for 25 years. Her and I had a mutual feeling for one another, but for one reason or another, we could never get together. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2019. Yeah, Robert, I remember you telling me about her and that story and that experience. It's just, there's so many just miscommunications and misconnections. It's, again, sad. It's heartbreaking for me. And then it also just breaks my heart seeing people being used all the time. After that happened, I told myself I'm not holding back anymore. See, it should make you be open to love again, right? My mom loved my dad so much. They had this perfect relationship. They never fought. And they were really good parents with us, and everything aside from the things that I shared that I had go on as a kid. And despite being very poor and so forth, hey, come down, no. My dad was so perfect for my mom that when he passed away, that she could not fathom anybody else ever. And she didn't know how to function without dad. And I think that's beautiful, but hard to kind of have such a perfect relationship where you wouldn't be open for someone else. Like, the pedestal was so high that no one could compete with that. And yeah, it's just, I don't ever want that. I mean, of course I'd love like that. There's no such thing as perfect, but for them, they were just on the same page for everything, right? But I really wanted my mom to give other people a chance, you know, because I'm sure dad would have wanted that too. They don't want you to be alone forever because, oh, I had this person and it didn't work out, or we had each other for a while and that's it, and now there's no one else for me. There's many for you. There's many. Why, how it comes about, is it timing, is it your vibration, is it their vibration? I don't honestly know. I just know that, like, we have to be open to that, and we have to be careful about what we're telling ourselves after we're so hurt, right? Just like when somebody passes away, we always tell ourselves, oh, if I would have made this phone call, things would have been different. Would it? You know, it's just things that we do to kind of, I don't know, torment ourselves, that we could have done this or that, and then it would have been maybe. But there's all these different timelines and parallels that are kind of dancing around each other. So it's good that instead of, for you, Robert, that you decided that to not hold back, right? Because, I mean, when my sister passed, I could have easily, like, I was so sheltered. My mom was so afraid for me to live or do anything because I was her only girl. And I didn't want to live in fear of life. I didn't want to be afraid of death. I think death should make you want to live. I feel like that we should live as much as we can while we're alive and not we're not doing any service to ourselves by hiding away, locking up our heart, or not opening ourselves up to the world. Life will keep breaking your heart again and again until you remain open. We need to be open. That is the theme. And again, it is an alchemical process that's going on too. Life is shaping and molding us into the person we need to be to do what we came here to do. So it's, again, like the experiences, they can break you or they can make you stronger. It depends on your relationship to these experiences, right? Are we going to choose to lose ourselves to addictions and afflictions, or are we going to make us be stronger and wiser and not fall into the same, so many pitfalls that others have fallen into? We have to learn from each other too. Okay, so many comments here I have to catch up on. Fear is a primary emotion, and all living things feel fear, anxiety. I think it's manufactured. Fear can become anxiety. Anxiety can become panic. And panic is dangerous because that's, well, yeah, panic is dangerous. And fear is dangerous because it can immobilize you and not make you be present in the moment. I find worry is completely useless. It doesn't do anything for us. I can't find one good thing from your worry, because you need to be able to think accordingly. So when you're in fear, it's usually like it's a fight or flight moment, right? It's like an instant reaction to want to be a certain way. But like I said, understanding fear, stepping back and being objective and looking at it, like the fear of the spiders in Bali for me, until I observed my fear, like I wouldn't have been able to realize. So spiders represent, I guess, an unknown, and that's why they're scary to a lot of people. And because of the experiences I had as a kid, as well as arachnophobia, the movie really, and then my brother's eating spiders in front of me, and then, oh my gosh, so many things. Side note, I happen to know, because I work in the industry, that there is an arachnophobia 2 coming out. Anyway, it was meant to be a comedy, by the way, and I don't think anybody ever saw it as a comedy. But yes, so I remember observing the spider, and like, because they were massive and they're everywhere in Bali, and when I saw that it was missing a leg, I could see that the spider was actually the one that was in fear, more so than me. And so it was like, well, what's exactly going on? Why? What's the spider afraid of? And then I looked around, more observing, and saw that there were these geckos, massive geckos in the bathroom that were hiding and tucked away behind the mirror and the toilet, all these different areas. And the spider's just like petrified on the wall, basically. And I realized that the geckos were eating the spider's leg one at a time until they had nowhere to go, and then they'd be swallowed whole. And so maybe that spider like was frozen in fear and hoping that I would see it and its plight, its situation. Because when I realized that, I was like, I felt empathy for the spider. I forgot about my fear, and I started chasing the geckos away. And I got the spider safely over the wall. And from then on, I was never afraid of spiders, even when I was sitting on my bed in Bali and a massive spider dropped on my lap. And instead of freaking out, I looked up and I was like, I bet it has just escaped a gecko. And sure enough, up there was a gecko that it escaped from. And it just jumped on my lap, and it went down off the bed and crawled into a pile of my clothes on the floor. And from then on, I could pet them like dogs, and they were instantly my friends. So I share this story, and I keep sharing it because I want people to understand, you know, the options and the opportunities we have in fear to kind of like freeze things. And do something different. Heal that thing within us, heal that misunderstanding, because again, pain and fear is a messenger that needs to be addressed to the right address. That's very sweet of you, Mystery. Thank you. Um, I wish everyone could have, you know, wonderful love and relationship as well. Um, it's weird to be told like you're seen as a catch when you don't experience that with others. So, but we are all catches. We all are. It's just till someone to, I guess, really see you, like the movie Avatar with the blue cats. I like Harry Potter and I don't like Harry Potter. I like some of the lessons and stuff in it, but it's really, really dark for me and quite disturbing for the most part. But yeah, there's a lot of cool fantasy and imagination in it, but I found it scary, to be honest, in the way that like, is everything's a double-edged sword, and so I don't know if it's necessarily the best thing for kids to have watch at the time, but particularly how it shapes their mind. Speaking of fear and scary, I'm sensitive and an empath, and I'm aware of visuals that people are given and vibrations that is projected to them on the mass level, which then I take on as if it were my own, because a lot of, I understand when you're an empath, thoughts and emotions are not yours, they're others, and you take them on because you can transmute them for them, and they can't, but like, that makes it difficult to do healing, because when I do that, I take on other people's pain and suffering as if it were my own. It creates a lot of more empathy and understanding on, you know, what they're going through, putting yourself in their shoes, but then also knowing how to transmute it right away so that it doesn't mobilize you. But that's a tricky thing. That's a fine line of something that you learn as being a healer. You may, okay, sorry, I have to read these comments because if I when I shut the video off, I don't get to see them. I don't know why, they're just not saved, so, and I know you guys can see them, but I can't, and a lot of times I have a hard time reading them as well. We may lose ourselves because we may become a composite of what others expect of us, and so we may forget to lose ourselves. That's so true. The film Hook has some great wisdom in it. Oh yeah, of course. Excellent movie with Robin Williams. Dustin Hoffman. Hello. I'm not married, no. The pirates represent what can happen to us as adults. Yeah. Thank you. Agree, our closest can change without reason. Keep pouring, it's a gift. Thank you. I don't know how to not pour. It's like, I don't know how to not be honest and just share everything, and yeah, it's so funny. You're a moody person, not because you're always on a bad mood. Well, moods and emotions, like they are, I think they are instruments or keys on a keyboard, basically. It's a melody of life, right? It's your life's soundtrack, if you will, our emotions. Let's see. Bill Ryan was awesome. I really like Bill Ryan. I'm sad I didn't get to be interviewed by him with Project Hamlet. They split up around that time. And although I'm grateful for my interview with Carrie, and also Pamela Ike, David Icke's ex-wife, was the camera operator for that interview instead of Bill. I had a very hard time with that interview with Carrie because she was quite intimidating to me, because she was like, your interview is for kids and kids have a short attention span, so we're going to make your interview extra short. And then the fact that she kept trying to change or control the interview or ask questions of what she wanted to ask versus what I wanted to share was a little bit of a battle that a lot of people picked up, and that's why the last 5-10 minutes of that interview apparently was everyone's favorite, because that's where I could finally say what I wanted to say. But I have a very loud heartbeat, and that also became apparent in that interview, because if you play that interview on very loud, the loudest volume, like many people have done, they said they could hear my heart going pop, 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 pop. So I was so shy and nervous while like kind of trying to explain these things to her and stand up to her to give merit and credibility to the younger generation, that you don't need to patronize us. Basically, we know what we're saying too. We have our wisdom and information to give, to contribute to the world. Yeah. Yeah, Bill Ryan's sweet. And I think Camelot was supposed to be the problem, Project Camelot, and Avalon, Project Avalon, was Bill wanted to do was the solution. So Carrie wanted to do Camelot and Bill wanted to do the solution, and I don't know what else happened there. I can't speak about it. I think the obsession with sharing negative timeline comes from internal health problems. It could be, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but still, like, we have to be aware that we're doing it, just like we have to be aware when we're in the fear that we're doing it, or when we're telling ourselves there's no one for you because you haven't met anyone yet, so all this time I'm not lucky, or whatever things we tell ourselves, right? And you have to do it more than we've told it to ourselves. We have to counteract that message as much as possible. Just like with brainwash, with media, as much as they tell us this about ourselves, we need to be saying, the opposite to ourselves. Yeah, test. Could be a test. I have many debates with my guides, let's put it that way. I'm not afraid to challenge them, because a lot of them are new. They're like that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, where Angel works to get their wings. It's very true. A lot of them are learning and to get their wings and their bearings, and they don't have experience being human. They don't know. They watch and they study as best they can, but like, they're not, just because they're guides doesn't mean they're infallible, because like, it's easier said than done. Sometimes I say to them, you don't know, you're not here, but at the same time they're like, yeah, we weren't brave enough, but you were, so you are, and we get to experience everything through you, but it's still not the same because we're not actually experiencing it in the way that I am. So it's a very interesting relationship and dynamics, and communicating with guides or your star family there's a lot of like debates, and there are some that are are on the fence about if we are I don't want to have to be careful with my words here, because it's not about being saved, because it's not they don't want to save us, but like, let's say helping us help them, help us. If I'm okay, helping them help us to help them. So basically it's a symbiotic relationship, and there has to be a synergy in order for, like, they can't save us, they shouldn't save us, we have to save ourselves, but we also have to show that we are. I guess there was a debate about, is the collective of humans not worth it, because they're so destructive, like, in this way. So are they willing to work on themselves? Are they really destructive? Well, no. This is the debate I have. We're not destructive. We are forced to live in a destructive way. There's a lot of brainwashing and conditioning to make us be narcissists and cruel, because I don't think we are naturally, right? And oftentimes, and it's sad that the news doesn't report all the good things about humans and the kindness and things that we've done. It's always focusing on the negative, which is frustrating, because they see us sometimes not respecting the earth or respecting ourselves, or they even listen to news stories or see what's happening of violence and to us or to nature and stuff like that, and they're like, well, if we bring you into our, family circle, if that quarantine on earth is lifted, are you going to do the same stuff here on our world? Are you going to set up a McDonald's on our world? Right? So that's more of a better way to put it than like worthy or stuff like that. Like, are they, there's this, that's why I've been dealing with a lot with, even with ex-partners, particularly Diego. It was always this sort of discussion about the worthiness of humans, that we are worth it, that we are generally good, that we are not all these other things that are projected on us. And that's, again, what I love about Anastasia, and she puts it so beautifully in words that I'm unable to, that it's just, if we're given that fair opportunity, when that darkness is removed, what are we going to do? How are we going to create the world, right? How do we create the healing centers without all this interference anymore? How will we run and govern ourselves? These are the questions we should be asking ourselves. Psychic is also having the courage of taking an honest look at the world and reading intentions. Yes, but I also find it interesting how psychics need other psychics to read for them. And so I've come to the conclusion that we are all like cars, and we all have, we're all mirrors, like the calming of the waters I was talking about within ourselves, and also looking at your reflection in the river, because we are all each other's blind spots as well. We can tell each other, you know, what we can't see sometimes, because you can only see so much in a car. So looking honestly at the world and also being calm enough to really see it with clarity, and it's no easy feat. Like, it's actions speak louder than words, right? So it's just being able to take our own advice. Even me taking my own advice. Yes. Can you share about your thoughts on Taylor Swift? My teenage daughter is a Swifter, so I'm very curious. This is a little out there, but you know me, and I do tend to go out there. I mean, her music for the most part seems lovely and clean, and there's nothing really, you know, disturbing in it like some other stuff out there. But there's a reason you're famous, and it's not for, like, in this world that has so much like darkness and everything's backwards, that you pay a massive price to be famous, and you basically have to, selling your soul isn't the right way, because you can't possibly sell your soul, but you have to do a bunch of awful things. And so there is, from the 60s, there's a guy called Anton LaVey, who is the leader of the Satanist cult in LA, and really in the Western cultures, played a big part. And there's a picture of a video of his daughter on Oprah that looks exactly like Taylor Swift. And she's basically, a lot of celebrities are clones as well. And she's known as, Taylor Swift is known as the Queen of the Clones, because her father was the head of the Satanist, high ranking. And there's songs where she's talked about rising from the dead, and she does it all the time. Now they're referring to her reputation in the song, but they're literally using her as a zombie and stuff like that, and then saying, there's these parts where it's the song called "Look What You Made Me Do" music video. You can check it out. And anyway, there's this part where she's like, "No, I'm sorry, the old Taylor can't come to the phone because she's dead." So it's really disturbing with clones. They just kill them over and over and make fresh copies over and over. And like this video of Zena LaVey was her real name. That was like in the 80s when she looked like exactly as she looks now. So she that didn't age at all from now, where she's a young kid. So it's just what they do. It's just they have these copies, counterfeits, and they partake in a lot of evil, horrible things to children in order to maintain their power and status and things like that. So I'm very wary of concerts like this, particularly like it's like a big brainwashing mess, kind of a spell people are under. And yeah, that's what I'll say about that for now. Telepathy works just from my own personal experience. Of course it works. It's natural. It's, again, Anastasia is like, you know, we don't need technology. Star Family is like, you don't need technology. You are the technology. Like, we are naturally telepathic, but we don't believe in ourselves. We believe in the technology. So our technology was training wheels for what we can do on our own, but instead we've enabled ourselves and rely off of, you know, these training wheels. We refuse to take them off because we can't, like, and that's the game too. Like, they just want us so dependent on these things, and then when they take it all away, we'll be like feeling like we're screwed because we're so dependent on it, not realizing we don't need it. We never did. And that's also what I love about camping, is the phone is useless. Wi-Fi is useless. You are forced to use your, like, more of your psychic faculty, natural faculty. Like, psychic seems like also like it's out there too, which I don't like it. It's when I just want to keep bringing it back to it's natural. It's natural. if you like anyone holding public sway, fame, and money a lot and is promoted from the establishment is probably on the wrong side, considering our current placement before the old older is gone. Yeah, it's true, and it's sad. So like, if you're generally a good person, like you have good intentions, but you want to be famous, you're like, well, what are you willing to do, right? Like, then a lot of them do a lot of horrible things, and it's always like just enough just to survive. But if you really want to be super successful, you have to do way more above and beyond. And the good ones don't get a chance to, because they would never sell themselves like that. They'd never sell out humanity like that. They would never even think about doing, you know, anything to any kind of innocent life like that. Thank you, Pennyworth. That's very sweet of you. The Pennyworth is, you purposely gave yourself the name from It, the clown. I'm curious about your story of why you chose to give yourself that name. Oh, I came to you in your dream realm. Yeah. I met some more kids at the camping trip that also said the same thing. It was a nightmare, and I wasn't another monster, which has happened only 3-4 times to me in your life. And, oh wait, I'm reading this 2 different ways. Which has happened only 3-4 times to me in my life, usually in the nightmare. One is either clueless, monster, or victim. So if I was in your dream, but I wasn't the nightmare monster, what was I in your dream? Because I don't know. I spread myself very thin, and I'm actually going to try to teach some meditations here in this local healing circles. Started to do again. I've decided where I'm going to teach people how to visit others in their dreams and be like, create your spirit like a gold blanket across the earth to comfort everybody who is just going through so much hurt and sadness and loss, and just empower them in the other realms, in the ether, so that they realize how strong they are, so that they don't let these experiences break them, but make them. And other visual meditations I want to do, like deactivating the do weapons, just like we've done with nuclear weapons. None of them work. And then also, I mean, we also did that with Detroit, when we collectively meditated and reduced the crime greatly. So we can do that. We just need to have that sort of collective focus to be able to do it. So I don't know if any other people are doing it, but I just feel that's something I can offer and we can do, and heal the healers, and just do what I did before. I really come here for people like you guys, the spiritual people, the sensitive ones, to let them know that they're not alone, and that there's so much we can do. The fallen ones use the chameleon insignia. They change colors that blend with their surroundings. Yeah, they're masters of that. Let's see here. Some of these comments I may not read out loud. Just a few to myself. Let's see. Yeah, Robert, I know. I'll just say that, I know. I felt that as well, but at that time, that was just a platform I had to get my message out, someone that would be willing to listen to me and what I had to say. Where other people the people that were meant to find me would find me, and they did. They sure did. I like David Icke. I think he's got a lot of great messages. I'm an admiration of him, and he's going for many years sharing the same thing, and I understand what it's like to share that stuff and be so alone and made fun of, and then as time goes by, more and more people understand, and I think it's great that he's got his family involved, and his sons are now helping and carrying on with his work and understand him, because I've talked to a lot of people who their kids are just not open or awake to this at all, or care to, and they just keep discrediting their parents and stuff like that, and that's really hard. It should be like a family effort So when I see a family working to wake up the world as best they can, then, you know, great, more power to you. And they're doing phenomenal work. Thank you. I don't know how everybody sees the interview and how I see it as two different things. The Project Talent interview, because yeah, everyone says I did an amazing job and courage and everything, but like, so shy and so nervous. Oh my goodness, just my heart beating so heavily. Noob guides. Yeah, some of them are noobs. That's true. No means perfect. Everyone's learning. There's just many layers to awakening, even without a physical form. Yeah, okay, there's contradiction around Ike, and I do know about it. Like I said, I've spent time with Pamela Ike, David Icke's ex-wife, so I know a bunch of things about David Icke. I've heard of the counter things about him. I've heard the contradictions. I've heard, oh, why is he alive? Why is he famous? And all that. We could have that same sort of debate like with someone like Taylor Swift. If, you know, she's very famous, he's quite famous too. But like not in a mainstream kind of way. We can talk about it as, oh, there's like, what is that word? PSYOP? No, like counter people who are working for the, like, seeming like they're on the other side, exposing, but they're actually on their side. I've heard all that too about Ike, but for the most part, I think that I think his message is pretty damn solid, and there's a lot of love in his books and warmth, and I think it's woken up more people than disempowered that I can see. At first I had an issue with him having people terrified of the reptilians, and when he explains and breaks down the agenda and their plans throughout history, that it could seem like we're screwed. And so David Icke actually was a big reason behind me doing my interview with Project Camelot how I did, because I felt like there needed to be more talk about solutions and about how we're not screwed, and like, that who cares about, you know, what all these things they've did, like, we will overcome it. But it's good that we understand the trap, because you can't get free from the trap if you don't understand the trap. You can't get free from your fear if you don't understand your fear. You can't understand your fear if you're not willing to observe your fear, like me and the spiders. The children coming in now are with more DNA. Why do you think they are attacking our DNA, mRNA? Well, yeah, they're absolutely terrified of the children this generation, which is why they're going so hard at them. Because these children are hella powerful. My goodness, just they're incredibly brave souls to be here, to be this generation, knowing how much this generation has to endure. And how many parents that are not awake, that are just basically giving their poor kids death sentences. But yet those kids will find a way to outmaneuver that as best they can. Even though there's crazy things going on here, where even if the parents are awake, now there's social workers that are involved, or you bring your kids to the hospital, they will end up putting the kids on, this happened recently. I was talking to Dr. Nagasi, who I met at a healing gathering at a tile spa, and Dr. Nagasi, I've seen a lot of his videos and everything, and this guy's talking, and he's Japanese, and he's talking about being an expert in medicine as well, because he's like dealing with people who are like, I only listen to experts, and he's like, well, I am an expert, and I'm like, oh, this guy, I wonder if he knows Dr. Nagasi, and then I find out he is Nagasi. I'm like, such a dork. But anyway, that's me. I'm silly. And so, yeah, he was sharing, though, about, like, these, he was doing a speech, and someone said, like, look, can you look at the papers and situation with my son? The social workers and doctors put him on a ventilator against our wishes, and now his lungs are inflamed and massive, and he's struggling to breathe and all that. He never needed this. And they're basically fighting for his life, but the courts and the system is so corrupt, and the parents just, if you bring your kids now to a hospital here or to the schools, you really are relinquishing all rights to your child. You're basically saying, this is not my child, this is the government's property, and it's very disturbing. because parents are struggling to where they can take their kids that is not, you know, government controlled, right? Public schools are a way for parents to be able to pay the bills, particularly with the economy hit so hard with the lockdowns and everything like that, that everyone's just struggling to, you know, stay afloat. And now if someone can't, if their kids aren't at school, what do, right? Private schools are expensive, but like Christian schools, there still are a lot of them that don't have mandates and don't have the trans agenda so heavily there, like in public schools. So it's just really wild. It's really, I'm amazed at like meeting parents who you know, are finding a way to navigate and maneuver and keep their kids as pure and pristine as possible during all of this like sea of ugliness that's being dumped on you every possible direction. So it's not easy, particularly if you're with a partner. Like we could be with a partner, all of you that have also been single a long time like me, that might not be awake during this time. Like a lot of people are finding themselves in, and they have kids, and they're fighting with their spouse about like, I don't want to inject my kids. Well, the other spouse is like, I want to inject my kids. It's the right thing to do. And unfortunately, the government favors the parent that allows them, that wants them to get injected. And it's also extremely disturbing because our phones only seem to have Amber Alerts, and it seems to be collectively throughout the whole country. When a parent decides to defy medical establishments and not have their kids injected, suddenly, oh, there's a child abduction, but it's always the parent that's abducting the kid, because and they basically have everybody's phone have this Amber Alert, so like everybody's out to look for them and rat on them, and it's super disturbing because they don't give a damn about children going missing. They take children all the time, but only when a parent decides to stand up to the medical establishment and to go on the road, then suddenly that's it. Like that is like the reason to go after someone, like, and turn everybody against them. It's very disturbing. I can't stand it. And I guess there's a lot of meditations and healings we can do around that there. But it's intense and it's hard. And my heart goes out to these people. Let me read through some more of your comments here. Right, the upward symbiotic relationship, kind of like the snake staff in medicine. Above, below, earth spirit needs the marriage of heaven and earth to rise in frequency. And it's also about balance. That's the caduceus you're talking about, but it's also the symbol for pharmacy. And pharmacy, as we know, the origin of the word from Latin means pharmakia. Pharmakia means sorcery, right? Which is also why I talked about last time Hollywood being called Hollywood because of the holly tree, which is what sorcerers, magicians would use for their magic wands, that tree, the holly tree. So they're still waving their spells and casting magic over us to this day. Nature, not nurture. For I think everyone, if you go back far enough. If nature versus nurture is an interesting thing to kind of think about. I think about that a lot. Being, can we nurture ourselves? Can we give ourselves what we need rather than becoming a statistic just because we don't fit the bill? You can say bullocks on here, that's fine. Like I said, bitch, and apparently they won't allow that as a comment. I'm sorry. Hello from the Alps. The Swiss Alps, really? Oh, so I have like the kind of Swiss braids happening today. That's so cool. Thank you for joining me from the Alps. I just love how like you come from all over the world, and that's also the beauty of a live is I don't know what country is going to show up. I never do. Excuse me? Come here. Who is this? Is this Papichi? There's Papichi. She always, I don't know, she's vocal. Okay, anyway, I live in Old England land, and we say bullocks a lot over here. Yeah, it's funny, it means BS, but actually also it means for like the actress Sandra Bullock, which was spelled with a U, means castrated, young castrated bull. So it tells you that she's actually a man. Just a play on words with the bullocks. What do you think about David Wilcock? He was also part of Project Camelot. He had some new channeling about prophecy of Archangel Michael. Any thoughts? I'm debating what I want to say about this guy. I met him as well. I think he did a lot of amazing work. I've heard that he might have been talking about things that were a little too much truth for certain sides, and because he was way more out there publicly. I've heard that he was replaced by a clone, and that's why he's not sharing the same messages again. It's possible. He's very different than from before, and I mean, truth is stranger than fiction. I think there's a lot of great stuff he's given out there to the world. I don't want to discard people's messages, even though maybe they might not be the best person, or could have been quite known to be a little bit of a womanizer, if you will, or stuff like this. Yeah, I'd just say that he's done a lot of great stuff, just like David Icke. I don't want to go into people's private information that people have confided with me about these people, but and some people might not be the best partners romantically, or they have their issues of why it didn't work, but they don't want to discredit the work that they've done and the message that they share to the world, even if they are not the best partners. Let's just put it that way. That's all I'll say about that. How do I know it's true about the cloning? Well, there's a lot of evidence about it. They've been doing cloning for quite some time. They would use movies like I think it was 1920s, where they put the movie out Metropolis, which is a message to the elites that they had perfected cloning. Cloning also got more perfected during the Raelian movement, which is interestingly a starseed movement, and there is massive, let's say, hubs in Canada, particularly in Toronto, called CloneAid, where they have been successfully cloning people since the early 80s. And there's a lot of celebrities that have come forward and talked about being clones, and the Clone Lab. Britney Spears also does this one video called Break the Ice, which is all about her breaking into a cloning lab and trying to destroy all the clones of her. It's kind of weird. Why would you choose to do a video like that, of all things? But the information is getting out there more and more as we're living in the times of revelations and apocalypse, which means come to light of what's been hidden. And yeah, so the information's out there. If you want it, I can send it to you. I did share about this streaming platform aside from Netflix and Amazon and Disney Plus. Now there are more freedom platform streaming on particularly if you have a Roku TV, called The Burrow TV. You can type that in and it's free, and there's all these truth videos out there, and there's quite a few on cloning as well. There's a lot of videos of clones glitching and freezing in the moment while on camera. There's a famous one of Al Roker freezing for several seconds without blinking after hearing the word Holy Ghost. And other like athletes and stuff like that. Eminem, it's A lot of them, they just kind of replace them, kill them and replace them with clones constantly. It's just a part of their rituals and stuff like that. And that's also what like the PCR tests are about as well, getting our DNA indirectly for cloning copies. It's their agenda that they're trying to do, but they won't do because it will be prevented. That at some point the cloning process is going to stop altogether because they don't have souls, and it's basically against universal rules, even though this race in particular that's doing it, the reptilians in cahoots with the Greys, are genetic masters in making different genetics and clones and races and stuff like that. They are breaking a lot of the Prime Directive, even though the one that they didn't break that allows them to continue on doing it is interfering with our free will. They're actually manipulating us and gaslighting us in enough to make us do it so that they're not doing it, therefore they're allowed to continue doing it, if that makes sense. So yeah, there's a lot of information about cloning of celebrities, and particularly Taylor Swift and so on. And also movies that talk about cloning. These are not fiction movies. Everything that we see in movies that we think is fiction, sci-fi and fantasy, this is all derived from truth. Don't kid yourselves. Priest in the snake scene of the looks of what you made me do, daughter of a warlock. Yes, exactly, Pennyworth. That's why Swift plays the cards of the high priest in the snake scene of Look What You Made Me Do music video. She is a daughter of the warlock, Anton LaVey. And there's documentaries about Anton LaVey and his work with the Satanist temples and things like that. Intent is what it's all about, but also making sure that you are aware that like we might have selfish intent, so to look at that as well. Like to do a kind deed, are we doing it because we want good karma, or we want favor with God or merit, or are we doing it because we should and we can and we are kindness, and kindness is the most important thing, and that all that matters, and what happens to one of us happens to all of us. That the planet's a biological living being, human beings are the cells, and cancer is when one cell doesn't recognize another cell on the same team, and so they fight. And that's, I don't know, I think we should remind ourselves of that all the time, what's behind our intentions. Like, there's so many layers. Because good intention can impede for sick intention. Let's see. You're welcome. You were born in 1981. Actually, I wasn't born in 1981. I was born in 1982. That's a 9 fire year in Eastern Astronomic System, 9-star key, the most expansive number in the system. I can see you spreading yourself thin. Yes, and that I do, as a blanket across the world. Yes, I'm a lot of fire in my sign. My birthday's December 4, 1982. I'm a triple fire Sagittarian, so pretty much all the... I don't know much about astrology, but I remember that I was told this about myself, that all the planets are in the fire house. Is that correct? In the Sagittarian house or something like this. And I only have a north node in Cancer, which means to nurture the earth. But yeah, I'm a lot of fire. I'm a lot of like passion and intensity and things like this, so it's quite fitting. Even though, I don't know, sometimes astrology can be quite vague, but I think also in the Mayan, it's like the self-existing sun, yellow, for the Mayan zodiac, and then Chinese, I'm the dog, and then I think for numerology, my number is 9, if I remember correctly. I don't know. You guys can do it. I gave you all the information if you want, and then you can tell me. We had the name Pennyworth before we were aware of the movie. I share this account. Oh, who do you share this account with? You're like talking like we, like you're a collective group of people, hive mind or something. yeah, a lot of people are grateful for the Project Camelot interview, and I am too. Of course I am, because I got to connect with all of you. So even though it was however it went, and for me, I thought I had a lot of expectations of how I wanted it to be, and frustrations, in the end, like it was perfect how it was, and it was meant to be that way, and and it got out to the people it was meant to get out to, and yeah, so. I'll never forget the first day we spoke. That morning, I was watching The Day the Earth Stood Still from 1953, and later that day you called me. T-mail! Yeah, I do that a lot, it's fun. That was the first time I've seen that movie. And the parallels and how it coincides. Hi, hello! So let's see all these people here. Misty Doy. If I'm saying your name right, probably not. Christian Thomas, hello. We can debate David Icke for sure. If he was a pop star and spreading mostly negative, then I would think he was mostly negative, and maybe not here for a good reason. But he's not spreading mostly negative. I feel like he's really empowering people. I think that he's even doing it more so lately than I can remember when I was younger watching his videos. But like, you have to admire someone who can speak for 4 or 5 hours straight at conferences and stuff like that. That's not easy. He's just a wealth of information, and has memorized so many things. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty incredible. Objective is masculine and subjective is feminine. Sure. It's also like, it makes me think of a poem I wrote about how spirit and matter are lovers undercovers, and how spirit wants to go on all these adventures and do these things, but then they're like, oh, you have to make sure you take body with you, and it's almost like a sibling that they have to take on a journey with them, and they're just like, oh, do I have to? They're so slow. So we somehow got this like idea that body is like a ball and chain to our spirit, but at the same time, I think spirit is just and body are in love with each other. So that's why spirit keeps incarnating back into a body, trying to figure out a way to take the body with it, which is this ascension process that we're talking about. But then I feel like at the same time they're like an odd couple, because spirit tries to convey things to the body that body just can't possibly understand, because it's more of a third dimension based and linear kind of thinking, whereas for I just got distracted by a comment, sorry. So they're just basically at odds. They can't seem to understand each other, because spirit knows what spirit knows and body knows what body knows. And so there's this sort of, even though they are struggling to understand each other, they keep coming and merging back with each other to try to figure a way to bring each other with them. As opposed to just, because I think dying is it's a traumatic separation. And so somewhere along the line, spirit and matter were married with each other and are trying to work out their differences and trying to create bridges of communication. I'm often wondering if the whole identity political agenda is to ultimately be able to have people not identify as human, thus suspending their human rights. I think there's a lot to that, to my understanding, that when you are injected and tested and have this stuff in your system, that willingly, which is on our using our free will against us in this way, tricking us, that you are no longer considered a human because your DNA has been altered, that you are now considered possession of a corporation. You're a product. And so you have no human rights. You can't claim those human rights. Again, this is something that they will not be successful with. This is what they're trying to do. And this, of course, will also be revealed in time in the future. And it will be undid. It'll be reversed and rectified, because they're reaching a point where they're running out of time, and they know it. that are just desperate and they're cornered and they're just doing everything crazy and throwing everything they have at us. Whatever made the hospital rule that the child is government property, once they enter there, they may also support Germany's government World War II. Well, there's a lot of parallels there, right? Basically, people don't realize that we're doing everything that we did during the time of the war, like even right down to cops who are holding people to prevent them from going back to their house to getting their food, their pets, or even the cops that held people to get burnt in Hawaii, their traffic so no one could move. And the justification to that is, well, I'm just doing my job. And that's also what they said during World War II as well, right? As well as all the experimentations that they did to the prisoners, which is now being done to the masses. And I hear about people saying they were slaves and they are free and all that. I just want people to realize that, every race has been a slave. We are all collectively slaves right now. That's how we've been seen by the elites for a long time. However, the other star family that's involved, they see us as royalty, genetic royalty, actually. That our genetics is very special because of our ability to create the way we do, that they can't fathom, and that we are this technology where they need the technology. They constantly remind me of that. And then also our emotions. Our emotions are extremely fascinating to them, that we have all this different emotions. They don't have that. And so it makes me think about like these fairy tale stories about royalty in disguise, the princess in disguise being controlled by evil stepmother, some kind of like evil, right? It's just telling us our story, our journey, right? Should we think Cinderella thinks she's a slave, a servant to the family and all that, and but she ends up being actually royalty, and that's us. So it's just so fascinating. And like, I also talked about, when you guys asked last time, someone asked about Pleiadians, and some of the star people that are here to right a terrible wrong. That's why they're involved, because what happens to us here will affect them, and that a lot of them have time traveled from the past or even the future, because, well, we were more technologically advanced in the past than the future, technically. I would just say technically twice to over embellish on my point. And so we also are time travelers here, righting a wrong as well. That's why we're here. So let me try to explain it like this. We're going through third dimension to the fourth to the fifth. Third dimension is not going to exist in the way that it is here. The earth is signed up for that to happen, so physicality will become more less dense, let's say. And but we originally were in the 11th dimension. We were almost at the 12th dimension when it was brought to the attention that there was something that happened in the third dimension that had to be corrected before you could graduate to the 12th dimension. So we were sent back. Like I said, the star people are versions of us from the future. They consider us family. That's the best way to put it, because how do you say you're like pieces of ourself of a hologram that has been fractured, and that our self is like, there's many facets of us existing in different space, time, and dimensions that got basically separated or got lost in a separation game of perception of that. So it's much more simpler just to say family, but just to understand about time travel and the 11 and 12 dimension, and then going back into the third dimension to correct this terrible wrong. The terrible wrong, is well, the Pleiadians also created a big mess at one point, and apparently they desecrated a race of people, and and then they kind of just hightailed it out of there and didn't take responsibility, and now they have to take this they have to basically now take responsibility. Everyone has to take responsibility, even the reptilians as well. I don't think the reptilians are at the level we are at. I don't think they're in that graduation point. Not all of them, that some of them are not to be associated with others, just like some, not all Pleiadians and Pleiadians are like benevolent, right? They have different agendas, and some don't even care. Some are just here to mine uranium under Mongolia, and those are the Moldekians. So it's very complicated. It makes, when I think about this and I hear about this, is like, this is like a telenovela. And then particularly with like these Greek gods as well, where basically the demigods, they had their children rule over and be kings and queens of this world. Because I always like think about, where did royalty come from? Who decided these people get to be royalty and everyone else has to be slaves under them? Like, well, who was the first royalty? And it would make sense that it was like from the Greek gods. They're warring, they're having their dramas, and they see the daughters of man, and they see that they're very fair, and so they mate with them, and then end up like they're demigods. They have this connection and power, yet we also are that too, but we are incarnating instead as not the royalty side, but the slave side, the ones undercover, if you will, in amnesia, going through this journey and observing everything and playing all these roles. But yeah, where was I going with this? And then there's Anastasia, who's not involved at all in any of this sort of drama, and she's just sort of like existing in harmony with nature, how we were supposed to, and she's just not involved at all and in that kind of huge kerfuffle, yet she is, because she's a big piece of it, moving everything along and reminding us in a way that's so clear. But I think that like even if the intentions of some of these races are not benevolent, I think that, again, in the bigger picture, as this is an alchemical process for us that is shaping and molding us into, so like I say, where humans have been conditioned to believe they're nothing more than a worthless piece of coal under extreme heat and pressure. Heat and pressure is the cabal that makes us realize we're a diamond. The fertilizer on the seed makes us realize our true potential. So in some ways they're doing us a favor, that they have to play that part of the inversion, perversion of reality, anti-life, in order for us to realize who we are truly and what we want. So I just think a lot though about that, righting a terrible wrong and coming back and being at this point and coming down, and other races that are involved, like the Adronomans, which I also really, really like. They're more mature, I guess, than a lot of the Pleiadians as well. Pleiadians are more kind of rogue indigo kids, is what I kind of look at them as. Like they battle with the Prime Directive because they just want to kind of come in and help, but they also they're on kind of watch because of all the rogue things they've done before, and also just trying to learn from their mistakes and grow as well. So I know we like to think that ETs are way more advanced than us, but they're learning and growing too, just like the angels, working to get their wings and make mistakes as well. I did also talk about my time being a guide and in the 60s and giving this poor guy too much information too quickly, and he ended up being committed in a mental institution. And so it was a lot of trial and error and trying to figure out a fine line of trying to awaken people with synchronicities and parallels and so on to get through to them in a way where we can keep their sanity in check, and that they don't say too much to the world at the time when they're ahead of their time, right? Like someone like Tesla, who struggled a lot being incarnated in the time that he was, where everyone's sleeping and out to lunch, I guess. But I had to plant these seeds for people later on in the future, way in the future. And others who's had to have that lot as well, like Mother Shipton and Nostradamus and so on, or even Orwell. I just imagine that must have been very hard for them. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the comments now. Let's see here. Tony, you're just trying to push the censorship on the comments, are you? Because it all gets like held for review. Blue Flyer, what do you mean by the poodle? Is that because I had Blossom there? Or Peaches? As you stop following David. David Icke or David Wilcock? Because we're talking about two Davids. Burrow was amazing. Also, the TV cartoon Inside Job is a humorous disclosure, if that's possible. Yeah, no, I've watched Inside Job as well. I like it. I really like South Park too, and Rick and Morty for that as well. How is it possible if everything has consciousness like a refrigerator, that a clone without having a soul? That is a very good question. Yeah, a refrigerator has more of a consciousness than a clone, and I think again it has to do with intent. But to my understanding is they don't have souls. Even what I read last time, the Hopi prophecy of the Kachina stars talk about people being soulless and in power like the clones. So that's very fascinating. And not just even a fridge, but like my friend who told me she had a regression where she remembered being the breastplate of a ship in the 1500s. Just the breastplate of the mermaid or whatever it was on the front of a ship. Nothing else. Like, it's just wild. And then there was consciousness experiencing through that, but not through a clone. I think because there's maybe I think that we're talking more about AI here, and just something super synthetic and surrounded by anti-life behind the intention. But see, everything is made up of matter, and matter comes from atoms, and atoms come from the stars, and then there's a consciousness in that. So but if that is, I think, maybe more of a, from a divine perspective, that's very interesting. Actually, I want to think more about that, because I do also look for contradictions with guides and my personal experiences and other things, even in Ringing Cedar books, just because I want to understand. I really do. So I share what I understand, and maybe it's a word, the way they try to explain certain things to us. Maybe what we think a soul is and consciousness is two different things. More pondering will be needed. I'm going to sit on that and think about that. That's really good. Anton LaVey was creepy. Oh, he's horrible. His documentaries were so disturbing of what he would do to people. And then there's this, I really liked Marilyn Monroe. I've always liked Marilyn Monroe. But one time I saw a picture of her and LaVey together, and I was very disturbed by that and worried about, give you a good idea of probably what happened to her if she knew that guy. 7K year human plan ended in 12/21/2012. We've been given more time to become fully human again. We are gaining back our higher abilities. Absolutely agree. But I don't know about the time, the year. I don't trust dates at all, because again, we're looking at it through a linear perspective when we're working with non-linear for the most part. So it's so hard to be accurate. Do I just want people to like me? No, it's not so much about this. I don't really care what people think of me for the most part, because I'd like to be understood. I think we all like to be understood, but being a public figure for as long as I have, I realized no matter what, when you put yourself out there, there's always going to be 50% that like you and 50 that don't, no matter what you do or say. It's just how it is. So I just don't care. because I just know that's just how it's going to be. And so there's other things that are more important to me, because these are things that we just don't have any control about. Because, like I said earlier today, people bring out different things in you, and we don't understand what it's like to be in other people's minds. You can try to understand as best you can, but it's really just about the kind of person I can be in my relationship with myself. I care what I think about myself. I care about when I'm dishonest with myself. I care about where I can grow more, where I can be more honest with myself, where I'm manipulating myself. Just things like that. And talking about yourself in that way without being like a narcissist, because I know I'm not the center of the world and I don't want that kind of attention. I will never like manipulate people to get my will. I just don't understand why people would do that, because it feels just really wrong and counterfeit. I just think we should try to be ourselves as best we can with how well we can understand ourselves and what we think that is, because, you know, what we think ourself is versus how other people think we are two different things. So yeah, it's enough to occupy me in that way, and then also just trying to communicate with nature as much as I can, and Anastasia's seeds that she's planted, and to contemplate that, and to be the best person I can be and make the most of my life, really live, and don't let myself become closed and jaded and cynical or bitter or sad because certain things haven't happened by a certain age, or expectations versus reality, and so on. There's a lot. I couldn't care less. Like, I don't have much time to contemplate what others think of me or want me to like me, or yeah, the people that are meant to find me do, and that's fine for me. Yeah, cloning is messed up. Most entertainments are cloned, but clones aren't a perfect copy. They are flaws in them. Yeah, absolutely. And they're cloned within a clone within a clone within a clone. And you know, usually when stories and movies and stories have told us, the more they do that, the more lacking that copy is, and not as sharp and everything, and needs more corrections and stuff like that. I also saw something recently about all the Disney stars being clones, and how there was a clone scientist talking about Zac Efron and him being very disappointed with that early clone creation for High School Musical, because he has these times where he has very blank looks in his eyes, where he's like, ugh, very frustrated with himself for that, because he's like, I could do so much better compared to other versions he's done in the future and stuff like that. So it's pretty wild. They're just, this clone scientist was watching and talking about all the Disney stars, and, you know, which work he's happy with and where he's made mistakes and where he's improved, and very weird. 1994, yeah. 11-11-6-9. Where did you see that? Is that the time? With the seconds included? The law is written by our hearts and inner minds. I wouldn't be surprised. Double life path. It is insane. Yeah, it's complicated. Your sister was born December 4, 1982. She's AB negative blood. Oh wow, that's really cool. So she's the same birthday as me. I follow Indian. What do you mean you follow Indian? Nature does not do mercy, only law. Open in a straight line. All of your comments right now are very cryptic. I'm trying to understand. I love your interview. Thank you. Narrow line. Open on a straight line, narrow line. Tony. Cryptic. Daughter's a little close, but miss. From celestial whole to the terrestrial duality. See, there's always the thing trying to do a live is that I get carried off in my thoughts, and then I try to catch up on your comments, and then I'm lost because I was so immersed in what I was saying. I'm trying to see how it was connecting to what I was saying earlier that compelled you to write this. From celestial whole to terrestrial duality. Spiders get rid of bacteria, but bacteria is also good. There's a lot of good bacteria, so what to think about that? Like, somebody like about the yin and yang symbol, because the white side is not completely white. There's a dark circle in it, and the dark circle is not completely, the dark side isn't completely dark. There's a white circle in it. So negativity isn't always bad, because negative ions is what makes you feel good when you're by the water. We all exist for a reason, yet logic and reason gives us rational thoughts. Hello, Ghost Riders area. Jessica's telepathic and psychic. I know this, and Jessica knows this. I love you, Jessica. Thank you, Tony. Is that meaning you're heading out now, or I know it's late for you and your side. I need the Cinderella point and got called a narcissist. I made the Cinderella point and got called a narcissist. What do you mean, by people here in this chat or for somewhere else? It has nothing to do with that. I think funny. Will I win Powerball tonight? I have no idea. No, not Fanny Funny. Oh my gosh, tone deaf. I can't keep up with you. Okay. What happened on Maldak was dark. Yeah. It's it was a planet that blew up that is now the astral belt around, I believe it's where Saturn's rings are, is the planet Maldak. Humanity is having a sense of humor. Well, it's a way to manage your way through everything that's intense and crazy. So where do I fall in this? Scrolling on YouTube live and I found you. Yeah, that, I don't know, I hear this all the time from people. They just get led to me in bizarre ways, and yeah, it's just so normal for me. I'm so used to hearing it, but it's also kind of trippy every time too. But hello. I guess your guides wanted you to connect with me, that I have something, some piece of information for you. Yeah. I can't type as fast as you talk. I know I talk so fast, I'm sorry. I actually talk even faster. I'm slowing it down this time for you guys, but yeah, I got to do the gym. Nice seeing you again. Okay, go to the gym, have fun, no worries. Nice to see you too. Anastasia is helping. She's always helping. She's carrying us across the dark window of time. Agree if you start bringing into the family. I had many dreams living on people, living other people's lives. Yeah, because your avatar plays many different characters, not just you. I talked about that last time. It's a bit to wrap your head around. Information has come to the person in good health and have the right sense of environment and slowly, yes. So you're telling me you plant seeds in me right now? Yeah. Yeah. 7-year plan lasted. Chris Thomas, read Akashic. A candle reflects is light, but depends on the reflective. Yeah, depending on what the reflective sees, right? Because that's how holograms work, and that's how we can be deceived, and they can show us anything they think we want to see, or knowing how we work as a hologram. So it's as you awaken, you start to, like, there's a reason that we live in this time of multitasking, because it really is this level of multitasking, of understanding parallels and times and how it actually works. NPCs have become popular. Well, because there are a lot of NPC players here on Earth at this time, and they exist to kind of remind us what happens when we don't wake up. A clone has all memory, and also like deja vu and glitches, and just like a Matrix has its basic program, so it has every game, even the games I'm working on, have their NPC characters that are required. A clone has all the memory of the one cloned. They only live 3 years and have to be handled to do what needs to be done. I didn't know that they only have 3 years. That's interesting. Where'd you get that information? I know they have a short span, and they have several versions of them. I know that Kevin Hart confessed that he had a clone, so that's how he's able to act and write and direct at the same time, while like also being a father and a husband. Like, he just said it so nonchalantly, and they're just starting to say it like that. A clone. Okay, let's see. What's the weirdest thing you can reincarnate as? Well, I think a breastplate on a ship is pretty weird. But yeah, it's like, I don't know if the soul is like doing that. It's just like, let's see, what's the weirdest thing I can incarnate as, and then let's do it, right? But it's a funny thing to think about too. A human, you can't go backwards. Well, I understand that animals, you can start as like plants and then animals and work your way up to human. I don't know if that's fully true though, because I think that it could be the other way around. But it also depends on what kind of animal existence you incarnate into, because some of them are pretty horrible. Majority of them are, actually. I think you can jump around into whatever you feel like you want to experience. That's why I love so much that saying that I once dreamed I was a butterfly flying hither and thither to all accounts and purposes a butterfly. And now, as I lay awake in my bed, I do not know if I was a man dreaming I was a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming I'm a man. I just think that's amazing. That's so cool. Soul is something that is like an armor or a weapon forged in the fire, refined and shaped it becomes. So that's another way of saying it that I could try to use, but I always say it the same way as I do, because I just like it so much. It's my view, not something that just by default, you know? Yeah. Like blacksmithing. In response to why people do good deeds. Oh my gosh, I'm so lost in these comments, but I'm still trying to go through them. I can't believe there are still people hanging out, waiting, like watching this. I guess it's amusing for them to watch me go through the comments. Be yourself is not your business what others think of you. Be yourself because everyone else is taken. You never see a bee trying to spin a web or a spider trying to make honey. That's how I like to put it. I think it's overwhelming the amount that, like Jessica, the ones who are making snap judgments and maybe being given the wrong framing presumptions from media they consume. I don't know what you mean by this. I need to know the answer to my questions. Will I win Powerball tonight? I don't know. Like, why is that important? Just go and have fun and enjoy it. And if you win, you win. If you don't, oh well. Then you play again. Is it more, are you doing it to win or are you doing it to have fun? Because, like, it's the journey, not the destination. What happened if a clone has children? Do they have souls? I don't think clones have children. I think they just make people think they can have children. But just like all the female, well, posing as females that are actually males, they can have children, despite what media says, which I could probably be censored just for this. But all babies on this world were mostly born by females, or maybe cloned. So that's the only way to do it. But they usually just, I mean, like for the Obamas, for example, their best friend is what their kids actually look more like than them, either of them. Weird comments. Okay. Someone's like saying, fix your teeth and talk. What's wrong with my teeth? I don't know. Distracting. And I had a dream they had a brain chip in the back of my brain to access the internet. See, I think that, like, we are like computer chips and computers. So, and I did talk about a video like that from, what's that girl that was talking about them hacking into our biofield, which was our aura, discrediting the aura, yet at the same time using that, like, computer programmers and hackers actually not hacking into computers, using the computer as a cover, but it was actually people. And then what kind of a chip is it? Because I know that my dad was taken up on a chip when he was 8 years old, and they put a chip in his brain, and that was a pretty important chip that they were trying to protect and not have the doctors find. And there are a lot of things that happened where they jumped through a bunch of hoops to prevent, you know, the doctors finding that chip. And I shared quite a bit of that in previous videos, so I don't know if I'll get into that this time. probably not. But that dream doesn't sound like a dream. It sounds like there was a lot of truth in that. Like it actually happened when you actually have that. Okay, it's not that late in England then. It's 9:08 p.m. depending on when you sent this comment and when I got to reading the comment. Same is true in D&D, Dungeons and Dragons. In the yin yang, in the Fey world wild, there is an extremely dark section that I forget the name of it. The shadow, the mirror exists, and the shadow fell. I'm sure there is a lot of truth in it. Just like Harry Potter, like fantasy has chock full of truth. Is damaging to those of the light as a negative dimension, but there exists a rumored small portion of the shadow. Oh, it's going too fast in the comments. As the Shining City, known as the Shining City. I'm sure there's probably a YouTube video if I want. I could look up on this if I get called to. Hello. 9:10 for you now. Okay. Oh, what about Elizabeth? I know. She wrote me not too long ago and checked in, and I was a little late at getting back to her, but I think I didn't make her wait too long. There's still people, shoot, it reminds me I have to get back to a bunch of people still on emails that wrote me from these videos, these live videos, wanting to do a one-on-one with me, which I'm open to, but I'm very bad because I'm very spontaneous with my schedule. Like I said, I picked up and went camping last minute where I had no internet, which was wonderful. Now I want to have seeds sprout up in my dream. Well, you very likely will. You had a sheltered life. You think those teeth are bad? Oh, I see you're commenting to that other person. I need to know... Oh, God. I found this information on the inside of a chewing gum wrap. What information, Tony? Nonchalantly, I've clones to help me get ahead. Yes, that's exactly what Kevin Hart said nonchalantly. Where can I learn about the clones? Burrow TV, on Roku, a streaming platform. There's a bunch of cloning videos there. I'm sure you can find stuff maybe on BitChute as well, maybe Rumble, and the other platforms that are coming out there. It's harder and harder to find this information as the censorship becomes more and more tricky, particularly in Canada. Hi, furry star lover. A man butterfly would fall to his death, saving the woman butterfly. That's not the point. Do clones have cheeseburgers? I don't know. This again about Powerball. My goodness. These are so weird. Okay. I guess like there's just spam or something. It's really strange. There we go. Anyway, I made it to the end of my comments. Unless there's anything anybody else wants to say, I might call it from there. I didn't dodge the question. I answered about your Powerball, and other people have also answered about it, so there you go. Yeah, I think I will call it a day then. I know it's getting late. These videos are like an hour and a half, but it was nice to connect with all of you. And yeah, thank you for joining me again. Take care, everybody.